hold on, before we begin, let me tell you all that this is going to be a pretty spoiler-heavy video. If you are still playing through Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, then please finish that game all the way to its completion to get the full ending and see it for yourself before watching this video. I will go very in-depth into all of its spoilers. I will cover every little nook and cranny as much as I really can, or as much as the script has really laid it out for me. And that's about it. So if you don't want the game spoiled for you, just be careful. This is a spoiler-ridden video. That being said, if you are clear of all this, if you want to watch it, if you have it all spoiled for you by yourself, then sit back, relax, and let's talk some Metal Gear Solid 5. So now that disclaimer land is over, yeah, nice intro, right? We're here to talk about Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. Now, I wrote out a whole script for all this and everything too, and I have that sort of condensed down nowadays before this video is going to be long as heck. But I condensed it down to a bunch of talking points, really. I want to go over the Phantom Pain in general, and if it's the good and bad of the game. Now, before we begin, I am going to say that this is one of the best games to come out this year. Now, it's a great game, and if you have reservations on picking it up, go get it. This is one of the games that if you can, get like the next-gen copy of it. Go get an Xbox One or a PS4 for it. If you have a PC that can run it, get it on PC. I actually played the 360 version of the game. It's still really good. Even if you have the old gens and are really worrisome about how, how it runs, still get it. It's a great game on anything you get it on. It's a great game in general. Now that being said, let's go into the goods and bads of Metal Gear. Now, as of making this video, I have over 120 hours put into the game. And that may seem like a lot, because it is. I admit I've gone on Metal Gear binges while videos were rendering, while I was at work and videos were rendering, the life of a video editor when things are rendering and you got all your jobs done. I typically play Metal Gear as an excuse to say, I'm going to watch over this render while I play Metal Gear. It was more of me playing Metal Gear than it was really on the renders. I admit that, and I apologize to anybody that I was working for at the time. Yeah, it was a fun 120 hours plus, and that may sound like the sign of a great game. Yeah, it's true. Again, I will stress it's a great game. I don't want anybody getting the impression that I hate Metal Gear Solid 5 or anything, but there are problems with the game. Now, let's get the good out of the way. Now, the good is that the gameplay is amazing. Compared to previous Metal Gear games, where things felt somewhat stiff at times, each game sort of had their thing, this game completely not reinvents itself, sorry, I'm looking for the better word, it redefines what its conception of stealth action is, and it totally brings things up, down to, it takes all of those little issues that every Metal Gear game had in the past, throws them aside, and makes a product that has genuinely good stealth action. Now, the stealth, to some people may not be great. I mean, there's times where I look at a character looking at me, and they're like, 10 feet away, and they're like, oh man, is that Snake over there? And they don't see you, and yeah, the stealth over there looks bad, but as a whole, the stealth mechanics have been upped. As you progress later through the game, when enemies reach a higher rank, they start to operate a little better, I've noticed. And, when they brought the game into the open world, where you can literally invade bases at any time you want, it was actually a really awesome sight. It was really awesome to see how Metal Gear did that, and it truly does feel like a very open world game. The gameplay is brilliant, how it combines the building of diamond dogs and the raw stealth action you get when you're invading a base on, foot, Fultoning people out of there, knocking them out with your tranq guns. And it's the one game to give you a full thrill, like a euphoric feeling when everything goes to hell and guns are flying off and the alarm raises and you're rushing out of a base. Your buddy's probably, helping, you have your buddy Quiet sniping people out as you're running through. She knocks people out, the guy flies into a wall, and you're just rushing out of the base, doing what you gotta do, firing bazookas, P-Quad comes in, you call in air support, he blows shit up. It's feelings like that make it an amazing game. This game has, 90s action movies cliches that you can literally recreate, and it's amazing. It's honestly at times, it sometimes feels like a fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger simulator too, you're in the movie fucking Commando, completely outfitted, rushing into bases, blowing shit up. It has that. And the thing is, the game does reward you for it. The game doesn't limit players into only playing stealth. There are times when I've S-ranked missions in the game, literally just going guns blazing, walking in with giant chain guns. Not chain guns, the fucking, what is it, the LMGs. You got a fucking rocket on my back, got a chunky-ass revolver just one-shotting people, and I have D-Dog on the side just stabbing people in the throat. Yeah, I've still S-ranked missions, and it was fucking crazy how awesome that was. This game takes gameplay and completely makes it awesome. It's a fun game. Truly freeform, truly open world, truly everything you wanted. And there's not enough praise I can give to the series when it comes to that regard, because they took a game that's already fun, made it even funner, and made it fun 120 hours plus in. I still get chills and thrills down in my spine when I'm rushing through bases, or I get that raw feeling when I'm in an S-ranked full base, with fucking people that are completely proficient in everything, Fultoning them out of there, dragging their bodies out, feeling spotlights, fucking warm up my snake and shit. Like all of that stuff. The thrill when a tank looks at you and you're like, I'm kind of fucked at this point, but then you run in, Fulton the guy out of there, and you just knock out the other 4 people, and a helicopter barrages you. You get the point. Alright, I'm not going to go on and on covering all the awesome shit with the game. It's an amazing title. It's got great gameplay. But there are some problems when it comes to the storyline for the game. Now, for example, Metal Gear games have always been lengthy and engrossing titles. Now, I use the term lengthy and engrossing as 2 separate words. They both are complementing the storyline, okay? They both can mean a game can be not as lengthy, but engrossing, and vice versa. In this respect, it's really only lengthy. Now, other Metal Gear games typically kept you really involved with the storyline through the use of heavy cutscenes, and a story that, even though it was convoluted and at times really dumb, it was very engaging and refreshing to get into. But over in Metal Gear Solid 5, it seems a lot of that has been omitted. There's not as many cutscenes anymore, and for some people that's a plus. In fact, I kind of think it's a plus too. There's not like overly drawn out cutscenes. When they're there, to be there, not to just make it a movie out of everything, There's sometimes when Metal Gear games really need to have the lengthy cutscenes, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. To me, the worst offender is Metal Gear Solid 2, because that game was the worst when it came to cutscene to gameplay ratio. Metal Gear Solid 5 doesn't do that. But at the same time, it's as if the story is just peppered in. Most of the missions in the game are basically glorified side ops in my eyes. And I'll go into that in a bit. As far as the actual characters in the game goes, Snake himself, I don't know if Kiefer Sutherland charges by literally the word, but he never really speaks in the game. And if you omit cassette tapes, he has literally almost no dialogue in this fucking game, alright? There are times where I'm like waiting for Snake to talk in a cutscene and he just never says a word, and I'm like, okay. And the game has an explanation for that, which we'll get to. But it's kind of weird to see a character that usually has hours and hours of dialogue in the games have barely anything anymore. So, as you move on, the story itself, it consists of 2 chapters, and the last chapter is a pathetic joke. The prologue is the hospital mission in the beginning. Great mission, by the way, totally fucking set the mood for how serious and edgy this game was going to be. Chapter 1 focuses on you in Afghanistan and goes all the way up until you fight Philanthropist. Now, this involves you going to Angola, Zaire, and back in Afghanistan. It's a pretty lengthy chapter, and it's interesting. You start off with literally no Diamond Dogs, and in the end you're fighting Philanthropist, which is one of the top Metal Gear battles to me. It's up there. I still think Metal Gear Solid 2's fucking rush mode boss battle with Metal Gears was great at the end. Metal Gear Solid 1 was also really... MGS4 Rex versus Ray was a great battle, let me tell you that. But this one, yeah, it was good. It was alright. It was better than Metal Gear Zeke from Peace Walker. So, good. That's all I can really say for it. Now, moving on with Metal Gear Solid 5's story over here, the missions themselves, even in Chapter 1, a lot of them amounted to go here, extract this random person, evac yourself out of there. Something you'd be doing in one of the many side ops in the games that got really repetitive later on. That's another downside too, is the side ops. When I got to 80% of them, I was just grinding through them. I think the worst set of side ops are the ones that are like the wandering soldiers, where you go to a village or a station where everyone's this ghost PTSD full soldier that just shakes around like a motherfucker. And you have to one by one knock them out or play a tape, and it's just It's really repetitive. A lot of the, grab the armored vehicle, you just go in, Fulton the tank, everyone around it, shoot down a helicopter if available, or call in Pequod to do it for you. It got pretty repetitive, and yeah. So, as you move through the story, a lot of the missions were glorified side ops. There was one whole story mission dedicated to blowing up, like it was C2W. It was like one of the beginning missions. You just went and blew up like a transmitter and walked out. It's like, dude, like, this is side ops territory. None of them were like super lengthy, awesome missions, until you got into the, there's like a couple missions, like a handful of missions you could count on both your hands that actually had a level of depth to them that I expected out of a story main mission, you know what I mean? The ones that really had a plethora of cutscenes tossed into them. And aside from that, none of those really had that. Now, Chapter 2, when you go into it, the game, it sets up like this really deep storyline. You kill Skullface, you beat Salanthropus, so you're like, oh my god, what's going to happen later on? And Chapter 2, you find out literally is nothing. It's more of the bad Chapter 1 missions redone again, and they added these dumb missions like Total Stealth and what was the other ones, Subsistence, and like 3 extreme missions, and you're like, okay, you could do better than that. And if you're gonna add those modifiers, why can't you add them to almost every mission? I mean, why not? Why can't you? That would only increase replayability, and that just makes you wonder, like, what the fuck was, like, Konami or Kojima Productions thinking at this point? Now, later on, Chapter 2 basically is almost nothing, and it has some emotional moments. This is where, like, the game's cutscenes are really at. There's a one moment when you're just, blowing everyone's brains out at Mother Base, and that's, like, that completely, like, fucking made my jaw drop, because, it was set up so perfectly. You set up Diamond Dogs, and fucking, you have to shoot down your own men with your own fucking hand. It actually fucking was really, like, compelling. Like, I actually at times couldn't fucking shoot my own characters, because they were just saluting me, and it's like, the real boss would never do this. It was something, like, good job. But then Chapter 2 finishes, and it finishes with literally a cliffhanger on, Liquid Snake, who's Eli. He leaves with Salanthropus and just fucking runs off to Africa, and the game has a collector's disc which tells you what happens there, and I'd love if it was included in the game, but it wasn't. It was content that was never finished or cut. I don't know the whole conspiracy behind it. We'll get to that in a bit, too. But the game's storyline doesn't match up to anything in the previous successors, so right off the bat, I can tell you right now, the twist at the end, where the game really ends, the ending, let's discuss that really quickly. The game's ending, where it's revealed to you that you're not actually Big Boss, you're the medic from MSF, which is the, PMC that you have in Peace Walker, and you were the best soldier on that unit, and Big Boss picked you personally to be his phantom, his replacement in the world, to be the fake Big Boss. But in the end, he says you and Big Boss are one, and it leaves you for the ending, and the ending, it's a nice ending where it basically is right, like, a couple moments before, Venom Snake, or Big Boss in this game, dies, right? Because it leads right into Metal Gear, where Solid Snake is outside fighting. You can literally hear him fighting in the cutscene behind you. Not in the cutscene behind you, but behind you, in the cutscene when you punch the mirror. And you're about to die in that game as Venom Snake, but it's a nice, transition into it. But it's just like, there were several story bits before that was supposed to happen, and that ending just was tossed in there. And a lot of people like it, a lot of people don't. I personally like the ending, okay? It's a nice way to, I guess, connect it. It's jaw-dropping, sure. It's kind of M. Night Shyamalan-y. In fact, it's very M. Night Shyamalan-y. Is that even a word you can use? And at the end of the day, it's, it's an ending to the game. And it answered the questions. Sure, it left some open to interpretation, left some questions really wide open, like that whole Salanthropus arc, which, again, was in the collector's disc, but should have been in the main game. It was an ending, and that was it. That's where the game ended. And as a whole story review of it, it was weak. Gameplay was great, but the story, compared to other Metal Gear games, was very, very weak in my eyes. And a lot of people have said this, too. Now, at the same time, was I satisfied with it, though, at the end? Yeah, but, again, the story did, in all respects, kind of blow. Now, moving on forward is some of the gameplay quirks that they've added in, too. For example, one of the gameplay quirks was the constant development of Mother Base and how stagnating it would make the game. and the best way I can describe it is that it literally does feel like a microtransaction mechanic that they initially had planned for the game. If you don't know what I'm talking about, whenever you develop stuff for Mother Base, or whenever you add to your FOB or your Mother Base, what happens is you have to wait like 3 or 4 fucking hours for those platforms to get developed. And we're not talking about, you turn your PS4 off, come back 3 hours later. No, we're talking 3 in-game hours. Now, I didn't really find this to be so bad because, as I was playing the game, like, I'm playing Metal Gear, so, I'll play 3 more hours and I'll eventually get it. But it manifests itself in the worst scenarios, too, because it's like, there's this one point where you're fighting Volgan, right, in Angola, Zaire, and Miller is like, oh, well, remember what happened? Obviously, you have to shoot him with water. Now, there are 3 water towers, I fucked up on all of them. So you can say it's my fuck up, but then I thought, hey, I'm developing a water pistol. Guess what? I had to wait 14 fucking minutes, so I'm like, sure, I'll run around the battlefield for 14 minutes trying to get the water pistol. The water pistol, never came because the game just started raining and it killed off Volgan. So, if that rain never happened, I'd have to wait like 14 minutes in real time for that water pistol to develop, and then I could distribute it to my, location with a drop. And it's stupid stuff like that I wish, it's like when you played Peace Walker, the game never had that many issues when it came to developing things. Like, what would happen is, like, some of the top tier items you'd have to play 3 missions in the game, and it would develop, and you would have it. Here, it's like, I swear it was originally going to be some microtransaction mechanic, but it wasn't, which is a plus side, I guess. Things online, like FOB, that can be speeded through with the MB coins, which, sure, whatever. Now they have, like, FOB insurance, which is fucking stupid. But, that's, again, it's another downside to the whole game. It's just gameplay quirk that, I guess, artificially extends the game time, because more often than not, I would honestly stop myself from progressing in the story just to wait for some things to finish developing so I could use them in the missions that would follow. And I guess in the end it wasn't as bad as I'm making it out to be right now, but it was kind of there. Now, moving on to the story again, back over there, there is a lot of confusion too as to how to get the actual freaking ending, because right now people are confused as to what the actual ending is. There's a whole subreddit that I'm following about the ending, Never Be Game Over, and I'll leave that in the link. I'll leave that in the description below. Please check that Reddit out. It's actually really interesting seeing what the guys and gals over on that page are really trying with Phantom Pain. And, it's like hidden ROMs that are tossed into the game. There's a ROM of a game called Porchupia, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, that Hideo Kojima played, all about a murder mystery. There's, like, hidden, like, barcodes or, binary data and, like, screenshots and lens flare graphics for the game. There's actually a cutscene that's hidden in the game that requires you to, disarm all the nuclear weapons already made in the game, which, yeah, like, that's fucking gonna happen at any moment soon, but, you have that to worry about and everything, and there's stuff to be data mined from Metal Gear Online and whatnot, but there's a whole bunch of stuff surrounding the game, a conspiracy and whatnot. I still say it's cut content, but hey, Roost Cruise is Roost Cruise, and I like it. At the end of the day, there's a fair amount of stuff that rubs me the wrong way with Metal Gear Solid 5, and by no means is any game going to be perfect. Of course they're not. But with MGS5, a very critical, and I know some people might think that I'm just nitpicking here, and in an extent I guess I am, but I don't consider the story to be something of that, greatness that I expected from this game now that I've played it and I've, let the hype die from my system. The game is great, gameplay-wise and everything. The story just still doesn't stick out to me. There's some gameplay elements, especially with the, those repetitive-ass side ops that you just, have to force yourself to kind of grind through later on. The replayability, though, is somewhat there in the main missions, because I have these little side objectives that you can, like, shoot for, but, aside from that, I'm still, doing those and S-ranking stuff. The little stupid development crap that they have in the game that lasts, like, hours and hours, it's so annoying. Like, even trying to get resources, you need, like, so many of them, and, like, even the resources, oh my god, the fucking resources in the game, you have to, like, wait hours upon hours for you to develop the right amount of resources. First you gotta, like, get, like, containers of them or little briefcases, and you gotta wait hours for shit to process. By the way, my tip on this is just build the base development, like, unit, the platform on your mother base first, and then, like, as that'll get you more resources, then you can start building other shit faster. Otherwise you're gonna be waiting for hours like I did. But, that's really all I have to say about Metal Gear. I know this video is getting long as shit, and I have basically ran through my talking points at this point in time, and while it is a great game, there is issues with it. And the ending, it's interesting, but the storyline simply feels more of a phantom than an actual storyline. I guess you could say that's my phantom pain in all this, is wondering where the storyline has disappeared to. I know I went through a lot of stuff, I know I went off on some tangents here and there, but I had a lot to say about Metal Gear Solid 5, and with 120 hours put in, I can't say it's a bad game, because I have so many hours tossed into it. And it is a great game, I've said it multiple times, but there is definitely an issue in the storyline that, you know, never lived up to its expectations. If their content is missing, it definitely needs to be re-added back in. You know, that whole nuclear ending, it's a nice, you know, ending for, I guess, the FOB metagame, but if it's part of the main ending, that's kind of douchey, because you know we'll never get it done. And there are just general little quirks with the game that I just didn't like, that I felt like they were artificially increasing the amount of hours required to even finish it, which I guess in the end it did, you know? I mean, I have 120 hours, a lot of that was spent waiting and doing side ops to get some better developed gear. The game is great, there are some issues with it, especially in the story front, and for a game like Metal Gear, it can't really have issues in the story front, because that's one of the things it's known for. So, I want you all to let me know in the comments below what you think of the Phantom Pain. What is your honest belief on it? How do you feel about the game? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Let me know. I really want to read what your comments are below, and please check out the Reddit the Reddit link that I posted in the description of the video on Never Be Game Over. Those people are actually pretty awesome, and I kind of want to see how far this Ruse Cruise can go. It's kind of interesting. If you're interested in the missing Chapter 3 and the investigation for it, well, go check it out. But that being said, this is another video, and a pretty important one to me, at least in this game. I've been very hyped for it, and I wanted to talk about this, and I was holding off on making this video until I had a fair amount of time played in the game. I played 120 hours plus, so I hope I have enough hours to get the cred points. You know, people ask me, what are the creds? Yeah, I have some creds in this. So, that being said, that was a Metal Gear Solid 5 video, focusing on if it was, you know, the bad and the good of it. And without keeping you here longer, I think I'm just going to end the video. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. Yeah, this is me, Mudahar, and I'm out.